Hi everyone, I'm Danelle LeBlanc with Caregiver Transitions, and I'm here today in celebration and recognition of National Family Caregivers Month with Martha Garman. Martha, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Danelle. This is awesome. I love that you're going to be putting out these videos for National Caregivers Month.
Yes, it's been so much fun. It's been so much fun connecting with family caregivers that are right here in North Texas. And so it was just so wonderful to reconnect with you a few weeks ago since, you're right across the way.
I know, so close.
Yeah, it's great. So again, welcome. And I wanted everyone here to hear some of your story as a family caregiver for your husband. When we connected last year, I think you were the first person that I knew who was caring for someone with frontal temporal dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was something new for me. And I know that there are others out there that don't know much about it. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your experience as well as helping to educate us about the disease process?
Oh, sure. When we first started this process, I'd never heard of FTD. And basically what caused us to just start looking for answers is that my husband was the class clown. He was very ebullient, very outgoing. And all of a sudden, he just started not being outgoing. He started withdrawing and being quiet. And I had a conversation with my mother and my daughter, and I said something about, I think I'm worried about Stefan. And they said, oh, I'm so glad you said that. We've noticed that there's something going on. And a couple of months later, I had that same conversation with his brother and sister-in-law, and they said, oh, we're so glad you said that because we've noticed that he's acting frail and withdrawn. And he was having some problems forgetting words, but we didn't really worry about that. It was the personality change was the real big difference for us. And so we started looking for answers, and we were one of the fortunate ones in that our primary care physician listened to me and really was interested in trying to help us find a diagnosis. And when he couldn't, he referred us to a neurologist. The first neurologist we had just basically said, yeah, there's some decline there, but come back in 9 months and we'll see what happens. And I went, no. But she had referred us to a neuropsychologist who did hours worth of testing. And she was the one who said, there's something going on in the frontal lobes. She referred us to a specialist in the frontal lobes, and we got a diagnosis in about 6 months.
Wow.
Where a lot of people with this disease, it takes years to get a diagnosis because it's not a memory issue. It's a lot of the beginning symptoms are personality and apathy. And so a lot of diagnosis comes out that it's just depression or a midlife crisis, or you just need some marriage counseling.
Interesting. Yeah. And then the disconnect between your primary care physician and then the specialist, if you don't have a great PCP like you guys did, then it takes longer and it's, delays the process of being able to get that diagnosis and then make the adjustments and changes that you need in order to help.
Absolutely. And my second book that I'm in the process of editing right now, I've got a whole chapter for doctors and providers on how to talk to caregivers, because it's amazing when you start talking to other caregivers, some of the silliest things that have been said to them by doctors and people in the medical field. And it's such a travesty, because these are the people who know that person better than anybody else in the world. And if the doctor really wants to know what's going on, he needs to talk to the caregiver. They're there.
Right. Yes, absolutely. It's a two-way street, I think. So it's our medical providers being more aware of family caregivers and our role, the insights we have, like you noticing changes in his personality and that being the catalyst for why you started to seek help, medical professional isn't in a position to be able to recognize that in most cases. And then for us as caregivers to be equipped and have the confidence to ask those questions.
We were very fortunate to have some really good doctors. There's still some things they could have done a little bit better. One of the things that I noticed is that when we got the diagnosis, he did a really nice job of explaining it to us. But then he says, there's no treatment, there's no cure, so go home and enjoy life. And then left us. And it's like, oh my goodness, now what? And so I went home and immediately started Googling, isn't that what we all do? And just started researching and trying to find those resources that we so desperately need. It'd be great if the doctors would just hand us, they're working in that community. They know who some of those people are. Just give us a list, give us some brochures, give us some things and say, these, or even better, one of the things I've noticed about the ALS clinics, the ALS clinics are really good about having integrated care. When you go in, you see the doctor, you see the nutritionist, you see the occupational therapist, you see the physical therapist, you see a social worker.
What have you found as far as resources for people who, whether they're caring for a family member with FTD or whatever the situation is, what have you found to be helpful for you in your journey to sustain caregiving?
One of the biggest things that I did right at the beginning was got onto Facebook and found support groups. And being able to find a support group that was specifically spousal caregivers for FTD was huge. Because one of the things, there's a lot of things that you don't learn until you live them. And so having that a community of people who I can say, oh, what do I do about this? And then, I get at least a dozen answers. Well, this is what worked for us. This is what worked for us. So even though many of us have very different situations at home, some people are dealing with aggression. I, on the other hand, don't have aggressive behavior. But there's somebody there in that group who's dealing with what you're dealing with. And you can say, wow, I'm not crazy. This is really happening. And somebody else feels the same way I do.
Right. Yeah. Just getting that validation that, okay, you're not crazy, that this is someone, another family caregiver described it as sometimes he felt like he was on a completely different planet. It felt like no one else could see what he was experiencing, what was happening. So,
my first book, I interviewed 42 caregivers and asked them all the same 23 questions. And the whole point was so that you could read the book and you could go, wow, I'm not alone. I am not the only one who feels this way. I remember early on, I asked a friend whose mother had dementia. I said, when do the tears stop? I am crying every day. And oh my gosh, I'm tired of crying. And she couldn't give me an answer. And after I wrote the book and interviewed all these caregivers, it was kind of like, sometimes they just don't. This is just my new normal. I'm going to cry at the drop of a hat. And it's okay. Until you live it, you really don't know. And that's one of the things I tell people all the time. I was clueless until I was in this position. And so trying to understand it is really fruitless. You're not going to be able to understand it unless you're in the same shoes. But the best thing you can do is just say, wow, that must be really hard. I am so sorry. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine is so much better than saying, oh, well, you know what? I had somebody who had this happen.
Yes.
You're not going to understand my situation.
Right. Absolutely. So, Martha, for those of us who aren't familiar with your book, what is the name of your book and where can we find it?
Well, here we go. And oh, I hope that's not mirrored, but anyway, it's called I Am Not Alone. It's called Conversations with Care Partners of People with Dementia. And it is available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback. Or you can go to my website as well, marthalgarman.com, and there are links on my website to buy the book as well.
Fantastic. Well, I already have my copy, so, and I encourage all of you guys to get your own. And Martha, I really want to thank you for joining me today. Is there anything else that you would like to share in celebration of National Family Caregivers Month this month?
Yes, I do. If you are not a caregiver, that helping a caregiver is such an easy thing to do. You would be surprised at how simple it is. Just very small acts of kindness can really make a huge difference in our day. And if you are a caregiver, don't be scared to ask for help. I have a newsletter that I think Danelle said she's going to put up a link for that. And I'm putting out emails, tips on ways to make your life easier, but just some ideas also. When somebody says, oh, if you ever need anything, let me know. Ask them to do something. And there are some very simple things you can ask from them. It's not all about getting the casserole. There's lots and lots of ways you can help us. And it's not time consuming or expensive to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. I can't end on a better note than that. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, Martha.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.